Hello, welcome to this video where I'm clearly going to be talking about my favorite songs from the second half of the 90s. I really enjoy making these kinds of videos where I talk about some of my favorite songs in a decade, even though they are like by far not the content that gets the most views, but that's okay because I made this list and I was very excited about it. And one thing I very quickly discovered was that the second half of the 90s, it was incredibly tough for me to pick just like 10 songs for. I mean, seriously, what a packed time in music, especially on the pop side of things. And by the late 90s, I was very young, but I also had older siblings. So I had a lot of music swirling around me. It made making this list incredibly difficult. There is truly no right or wrong answer. These are just my top 10 favorite songs that I have listened to most from 1995 to 1999. I do want to also point out, I did not include any hip hop on this list. Hip hop in the 90s is like a whole beast in itself. And quite frankly, it's a whole beast that I do not feel knowledgeable enough in. So I didn't want to just throw on the very popular hip hop tracks by, legendary artists without truly having the knowledge to talk about it. I mean, these are the songs that I actually listen to. So full transparency, if you're looking for hip hop tracks, it's not going to be on this list. To the best of my knowledge, this is when these songs were released. And we're going to start with 1995, where I only have one track. And that is This Is How We Do It by Montell Jordan. This Is How We Do It is a true classic for me. I feel like it is a song that if you ever watched like 90s television or movies, I feel like it's featured on a lot of soundtracks. Maybe that's just me, but it is a song that I feel like I have heard a lot through my time and I enjoy the vocal of it so much. I was a basketball player, played a lot of basketball in my day, and I just feel like somehow this song would still get thrown in to like basketball warm-ups, playlists and all this stuff, even though it was just way older than, by the time I was playing basketball. I think what really does it for me is not only is it catchy, but I really do love the tone of voice and the vocal melody of that song. So I only have one song for 95 because seriously, it's like the later half of the 90s, like the very end just were insane. So 1996, I only have one song as well. This is genuinely a classic. This is a song that might possibly be too well known and people might be like, do you actually listen to it? But I really did for a very long time. It only felt appropriate to add, and that's Wanna Be by the Spice Girls. There are other Spice Girls songs that I've definitely listened to, and they are the other singles as well. But Wanna Be was a song that I enjoyed so much, especially in my childhood, that I could not include it, even though it is ridiculously popular. I also feel like it's one of those songs where to this day, do I listen to it like on my own time? Do I seek it out? No, I don't. I'll be honest, I don't. But I did listen to it so much in the past. And when it does play now in the present, I'm never upset about it. It's just like a very unoffensive song. But nostalgia wise, I had to include the track because it really takes me back to my childhood. And I mean, don't get it twisted. It's fantastic pop. Great bubblegum pop that is such an earworm. 1997, I've got 3 songs, and that's because things just went crazy that year. And this is where we're going to start talking about boy bands. Oh yes, we're going to start talking about boy bands. Everybody, Backstreet's Back by the Backstreet Boys. There are songs by the Backstreet Boys that were released in the 90s that were even more popular. Example, I Want It That Way. A big example. But although you can't mess with that song, I love Everybody Backstreet's Back. That is actually a song I do seek out to listen to still today because it's so incredibly fun, high energy. I mean, obviously the production of it feels very correct for the era, but I love that. Everybody Backstreet's Back is such a pump up jam that I think if people were to go and like listen to it with headphones today, they would find themselves like fist pumping along to AJ's vocal on the chorus. Like, really gets me going. It's a really fun song. Now we are going into rock a little bit, and that is Foo Fighters, My Hero. My Hero, lyrically and musically, has always just touched, like really just got me in my heart. And I really feel like it's a timeless song by Foo Fighters. Like, it doesn't have a feeling of an era on it. I feel like it could have been released yesterday. And I more recently when I just saw the performance from a while ago of Taylor Hawkins' son performing My Hero with Foo, like, I mean, it was so touching, so beautiful, but I loved the song before then, but seeing that performance, it literally like just solidified to me, this is why I love that song. Musically, it makes me feel emotional. The lyrics in itself are emotional, but seeing it applied to a very real life situation for the band itself, like, very touching. My last one from 1997 is I'll Be Missing You by, at the time, Puff Daddy. I know that's not what he is called now. I also know that he's not called P. Diddy anymore. I can't keep up with what he's actually called anymore, but we all know who I'm talking about. That song was probably one of the first songs that I can actively remember as a child hearing and being very like it was one of my first moments of understanding, like, this is a really sad song. These lyrics are about losing loved ones. It literally was my first moment of feeling lyrics very deeply, even though I was a child. I think it was one of my first moments of fully realizing that just how emotional music can be and how it can make you feel so many different emotions. And because of that, I had to include it on this list. 1998, one song. This was really hard to pick. So hard to pick. Tearing Up My Heart by NSYNC. That first album from NSYNC, I could not tell what year to say the song was released, because in Europe it was released earlier, but then released later over here in the USA. I live in the USA, so I went with the USA release. And Tearing Up My Heart is, am I going to regret this? Because I Want You Back is also such a bop. Regardless, it's a pump up jam. It's right there with everybody Backstreet's Back. I love the high energy zone that Tearing Up My Heart is in. Gosh, and you want to know what the weird thing is that I actually love about Tearing Up My Heart? It's the backing vocals that you are getting from Joey, Chris, Lance. It's so good. The harmonies are so tight on that song throughout the whole entire thing, and the ad-libs and the layering of the vocals. I think that's truly what makes the song for me, combined with the tempo. 1999. What a year. I have 4 songs. Let's go on with the first one, which might be a little rogue for some people. And that is That's the Way It Is by Celine Dion. In a way, this song, I mean, obviously great vocal, great like adult pop track, but it is a little bit of not a joke to me. The song itself isn't a joke, but I do use the phrase, that's the way it is, sung like Celine Dion a lot in like conversation with close ones or sending a gif of her singing that line. But all of that aside, I think it's a very bright, beautiful, like I said, adult contemporary pop track that is so fun to sing along to. That's why it's on the list. It's such a poppy vocal melody on the chorus. It's always just felt very bright and happy to me and feels very late 90s, early 2000s specific. And it's one of those songs that definitely takes me back in time when I hear it. Now, you don't think I'm going to talk about 1999 without talking about Destiny's Child. Absolutely wrong. Literally one of my earliest memories as a kid was seeing the music video for Say My Name. And I remember being blown away by the concept. It was like all these different colored rooms and it kept switching. I loved all the color and it really just enticed me. Seriously, it's one of my earliest childhood memories of learning what it meant to like be enthralled by a music video, combined with obviously the amazing vocals and the harmonies. Didn't know they were called harmonies back then. It did bring a different sort of pop music into my world, because up until that point, I'm hearing like Britney Spears, very like bubblegum pop sort of songs. And now I'm hearing this trio with like what I didn't know at the time was like pop R&B flair. It brought a little something new to my ever developing ear for music. Another significant memory of mine from 1999 was Ricky Martin's Livin' La Vida Loca. Pure fun. I also remember that music video too. Like I had older siblings, so MTV music videos, VH1, that was playing a lot in my house. Are we kind of seeing how I became how I became? I would try singing karaoke to that when I was little, even though I couldn't even understand the lyrics in English because honestly, probably using a lot of words outside of my vocabulary at the time. But I just remember feeling like that one was so fun to dance along to. And that's why in today's world, I listen to the song. Definitely, that's a nostalgia song for me. And it's one that you just belt out the chorus to. My last track for 1999, probably one of my favorite songs by this artist, especially of the singles, that is You Drive Me Crazy by Britney Spears. To this day, I have always been, from then to now, always been more of a fan of You Drive Me Crazy than One More Time, Baby One More Time, wherever that title is, starts and ends. And I think it's because there's a little bit more oomph to that song. And reflecting on it now, the part that always drew me in was definitely towards the end of the song, layered vocals. It's so funny reflecting on this now because I am realizing as a child, there were elements of music that I picked up on that I really enjoyed, but I didn't know how to phrase it. And it's a lot of stuff that I love to this day. You Drive Me Crazy is definitely one of those pop songs that I don't skip if it comes up. It feels very classic and I really like the zone of it. It's also probably why going into the 2000s, Stronger by Britney Spears, I was always more of a Stronger fan than Oops, I Did It Again. Once again, a bit more of the fierce kind of Britney Spears style songs. I just think it's a very powerful pop track. Now, honorable mentions, literally so many honorable mentions. I'm going to list them right here. Really quickly go through them. Mbop by Hanson. Early days Hanson. I know the albums very well. Man, I Feel Like a Woman by Shania Twain was a song that I don't listen to as much now, but as a child, it was one of my like all-time bops, so I had to include it. Bittersweet Symphony, the Verve, is one that I've actually liked a lot from like teenage years on. So I was not listening to that as a kid, but I really wanted to include that in my top 10. It was just too hard to squeeze it in there. But no, like I definitely love that song. And I didn't even realize how old it was when I started listening to it. I really, really, really love that song. The Hardest Thing by 90 Degrees. The hardest thing was to not include this song in the top 10. What a wonderful, sad song. Sad pop. Oh, woe is me. Painful love song. Believe by Cher, need I say more? And then finally, Fly Away by Lenny Kravitz, also a song that I did listen to probably mid-2000s. I listened to it more, but yeah, I will always appreciate a good Lenny Kravitz track, and that one is a song that I do listen to today. There it is, the second half of the 90s. What a fantastic time in music. Please let me know some of your favorite songs from the late 90s. And I can promise you, if you start Googling or looking up when songs were released, it is incredibly overwhelming to try and pick a certain amount of songs. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And until my next video, bye.